With high housing costs and rising interest rates, many people feel locked out of the homeowning dream. And that's extra complicated for many of Canada's Muslims who are faced with another barrier, and that's finding a mortgage that aligns with their faith. For more on halal mortgages, what they are, and why they're so hard to receive, we are joined by Mohammed Swaf. He is the co-founder and CEO of Manzil, a company that distributes halal-compliant financial products like investments and mortgages. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I was just telling you in the commercial, this is something I hadn't known about before, but can't wait to learn more about.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me and happy to be here.
Can you explain for our viewers what a halal mortgage is, how it works, and how it differs from traditional lending?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Islamic finance principles, we're not allowed to pay or receive interest. And so our transactions have to be asset-backed or asset-based. So traditionally, what would happen is you would actually go to a bank and ask them for some money, and then they would say, hey, well, you have to give us some more money back. And that would be that non-compliant transaction. In our world, the financial institution actually has to take ownership of that asset for a certain time. So in a murabaha transaction or a cost plus, which is a very simple example, we would actually take ownership of the asset and then resell it back to you for a profit, which is equivalent to whatever the embedded interest rate would be over that period of time. And then we just give you the convenience of making those payments over, let's call it 300 months or 25 years.
Right. In Christianity, that comes from the principle of neither a borrower or a lender be, and I imagine there's a similar faith principle involved.
That's correct, yeah. So not only in Christianity, but in Judaism, so under the Abrahamic faith rules, like usury, this is, not allowed. So, whether it's being practiced or not is a different matter, but, within Muslims here in Canada, it's definitely something that they hold on to.
So what is the demand like right now?
Oh, the demand is through the roof, I would have to say. So I can tell you from a Manzil perspective, we have 12,000 families on our wait list right now.
On your wait list?
On a wait list,
wow.
Which amounts to about $6 billion of required financing, and that grows by about $100 million a month. And we do zero marketing for that.
Wow.
And so we're trying to constantly source new sources of capital just to keep up with that demand.
Something else that people not be aware of is Canada is the last G7 country that does not accommodate halal mortgages. So what's behind the delay?
Number one, I think it's political will. Like if we look at the UK and even now Australia as an example, their governments have come in and said, we want to introduce Islamic banking or halal banking within our frameworks and regulatory systems. Canada has fallen behind on that. And when you think about the populations, like Australia only has 400,000 Muslims. We now have 2 million Muslims. And this is very similar to where the UK was about 20 years ago in 2003 when Prime Minister David Cameron at the time said he wanted halal banking to be part of the UK financial system.
What is some of the political reasoning that's given for not having them in Canada?
Yeah, I think it's really due to a lack of awareness, a lack of education. I think there's also very little experts in this space. And I would say as well, just cultural awareness on both sides, right, within the broader Canadian population that, halal banking doesn't have to interfere with our regular banking system. It can actually work alongside with it. So no different when you go into any Middle Eastern country or Southeast Asia, even the UK, you'll have conventional banks and Islamic banks sitting side by side, and that's just optionality and choice for the consumer.
So a little bit more homework needs to be done here in Canada.
Absolutely.
You mentioned some numbers, and Islam is the second most reported faith group in Canada. That's according to the latest census that just came out. They account for nearly 5% of the population. That number's growing. You mentioned 2 million right now. With institutions like yours, do you feel like this community is being left out of the housing market because they can't access what they need to?
Absolutely. So this is actually a financial exclusion matter. We always talk about financial inclusion and trying to be inclusive, but this is actually financial inclusion where Canadian Muslims exclude themselves from participating in traditional banking because it doesn't adhere to their religious beliefs. So we have had doctors and engineers and pharmacists and professionals renting for 15, 20, 25 years.
Wow.
So when they have the down payment available and they can literally walk across the street to the bank and get a mortgage. Like these are ghost prime, let's call them borrowers or ghost prime candidates. And because the products are not available that adhere or align to their principles and values, they just choose not to participate. So think about all of the money that's just sitting on the side, unparticipating. And when you think about Census Canada, like the National Home Survey actually indicated that Muslims are the lowest participants in home ownership and in the capital markets as well.
And it's not for lack of desire or money, it's just because of this access. Great conversation today. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.